Okay, so our next and final one of our series on our wellness wheel is environmental. So what do we mean by environmental wellness?
Yeah, so a lot of people immediately go to taking care of kind of the reduce, reuse, recycle, right? So taking care of our environment, which is absolutely a component of it, right? We have one Earth, we need to stay here, we need to be able to like live here, so that's important. But when we talk about environmental wellness, we're really talking about any environments that we live, work, and play in. And so are they safe and comfortable and supporting our well-being versus detracting from it?
Oh, so we're talking like roommates for the first
Yeah.
time. Okay. So what kind of resource? Let's start with that one. So
Sure.
you're living with somebody that's not part of your immediate family, has had different life experiences, has different beliefs about how a room space should operate or be used. How do we navigate that, and what resources do we have to help with the roommate stress?
Yeah, I would say your top person is going, at least when if you live on campus, is an RA, right? Your resident assistant. They've gone through this a lot. They know how to help support and navigate that. But it's really around setting expectations together, right? Working with your roommate, the communication skills are so key.
And I will say this, I've had a hard time with roommates. I don't like sharing my space well. And
Yeah.
as I've matured, I've realized that the passive aggressive huffing and rolling of my eyes was not clearly communicating what I was frustrated about or why.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So setting those boundaries with each other, right? What are you willing to like give a little on and what is like a no-go for you? And like letting people know, right? If you don't communicate your boundaries, it's hard for people to know what they are.
Yeah.
And so making sure that you're kind of setting that together with your
taking
roommates.
the roommate agreement very seriously, not
Actually,
as just like the
yeah.
paper that they make you fill out before you can get keys.
Yes.
And I know that was a flaw that I had. It's like I really just kind of like, yeah, okay, we'll be fine.
Sure,
Like
yeah.
everybody knows how to live together. But what I think what happens is we take our experiences and turn that into a universality.
Yeah.
And like, well, that's just everybody must have the same beliefs as far as what's appropriate, what's not. But that's not the case.
Yeah.
Everybody's raised differently.
Yeah. And it's like interesting, and you probably know more about this, knowing a lot about the brain, but like for some people, the like chaos and like mess of like clothes around and stuff is really great because like they're a creative mind and like that
And they
helps.
know exactly what's in what pile.
Yeah. And then for some people, like if there's any mess, they can't function, right? Like they can't focus on what they need to focus on. And if you have those two types of people in the same space, that's very difficult.
Yeah.
And so how do you navigate that? And really communication is key.
Yeah. So also going into other environments, like classroom environments and looking at maybe picking up on cues of the environment. So are there cues that they can get from a space about what maybe they can expect from that space? Oh, that was a tricky one. So I led you into an area of my expertise. Sorry. So I'll answer my own question because I led you into my space. I'm sorry. So when you walk into, like, for example, a classroom setup like this, it's very much going to be more of like you're focusing towards the speaker.
Sure.
So it's communicating that you're going to be more of taking notes. It's more of a traditional lecture.
Yeah.
If you walk into a space and the tables are more of in a circle, that's communicating to you like you're expected to be social and interact and communicate with the people around you.
Sure.
When you walk into a space like the library, you're getting the social cues of like, okay, is this a quiet space or versus this is a collaborative space? And there are cues and usually sometimes signs about that. But I think sometimes we overlook what environments are designed so very intentionally to tell us. And I'm sorry that I just like dropped on you my area of study.
No, learn something new.
Yeah. So I think also with environmental is reading the environment and what the contexts are telling you.
Yeah. For sure.
Sorry.
No. I love that.
And then also, can we go back to the outside space environment? I'm a big fan of forest bathing.
Yeah.
And so there's I love that they call it that. So so forest bathing, going out into nature regularly has been shown to have great impacts on overall wellness and health. So looking at getting outside more, especially in a climate where we don't see a lot of sunshine. How do we prioritize that, and where and how do we find spaces where we can go for like a hike, for example?
Yeah. Well, I think being in West Michigan is great because we have lots of opportunities, right? But acknowledging first that sometimes it's not possible. So that like walking between classes is actually really great because it does get us outside. But then finding those like nooks and crannies, like maybe veering off of the course that you usually take to classes or back home from classes, right? Most universities have like an arboretum or a green space that you can go to. We're lucky enough to have the ravines that have hiking trails, right? And utilizing those spaces because like you said, there's tons of research that just like seeing the green spaces
we did.
is
Yes,
really,
we've talked about this before. Yeah, just being
that.
like the background of your computer is outdoor space has an impact.
Yeah.
And even just part of that too, as you mentioned, like walking between classes, it really, I don't want to say only works. I haven't looked at that research, but it's highly beneficial if you're being mindful while doing that walk.
Yeah.
Like it's very different of like, I'm on my phone quickly texting everybody what the plan is for dinner.
Yeah.
Then you're like, but I did a walk outside versus like actually absorbing what you're seeing and experiencing in that outdoor space.
Yeah, sure.
And I find even just driving, like if I'm looking at the sky and the trees and being more mindful in my drive, I feel like, oh, I'm still outside.
Yeah.
I can see outside.
Yes.
And it feels better.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Any other advice on environment? Maybe, we haven't really talked about how we can control or influence our environment. Do we want to get into that?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think knowing what spaces, and it's kind of like people, right? It's like they either fill us up or they drain us.
Yes.
And so what spaces are like that for you, and spending more time in the spaces that really do fill you up. So if the library is too quiet for you and like not your thing, maybe studying in Kirchhoff where it's a little bit more, or like a student union where it's much more like people and there's things going on, right? But if you do need the quiet, going and finding a quiet space in the library.
And everybody's so different about what those preferences is. So like, going back to like, take what the environment's telling you and communicating to you.
Yeah.
If that's comforting to you, then great. If not,
Yeah.
But also be very mindful of defining your spaces in your, like, for example, apartment, dorm, or whatever.
Yes.
It's like, this is the study space, this is the sleep space, and don't mix the two.
Don't put them together. Yeah. Which is very hard for college students, right? Because usually it's like, here's my room and here's my desk, and there's like bed and desk, and you can't like find a lot of space. And so trying to create those spaces, whether in your home or like actively making sure that your study space is in a different location, right? So maybe doing it between classes or before you go home for the day.
Yeah, because when you don't, I guess I should probably mention why. When you don't clearly define those spaces, the brain will just keep operating on what it thinks the default mode is. So if you always study in your bed and then you try to lay in your bed to study or to sleep, your brain's going to think study, which is what my mouth just did. And so one of the things that came out of COVID, when people were working from home, they were having a harder time shutting down. So you ended up working all day because it was the same space. Like it no longer had the separation. So clearly defining your spaces within your environment, also very important.
Very helpful. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.